What would you do if a simple flower could change someone's life? Could the kindness of a stranger ripple across time, touching hearts in ways no one ever expected? At Buckingham Palace, where rules are as old as its walls, a little girl's innocent act set off a chain of events so unexpected, it left everyone who witnessed it in awe. What happened that day? And how did a single flower carry the weight of love, hope, and second chances? Stay with us. You won't believe how this story unfolds. Before we dive into this unforgettable story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more heartwarming stories that will inspire and stay with you. It was a warm summer day in London, and the area around Buckingham Palace was alive with the hum of tourists. Groups from all corners of the world crowded near the majestic black and gold gates, their cameras flashing as they tried to capture the grandeur of the palace. Some stood waiting, eager for the next changing of the guard ceremony, a spectacle of British tradition that had taken place at the palace for nearly 200 years. Standing with her mother among the tourists was 7-year-old Kaylee, her small hand tightly clutching Claire's. Kaylee's wide, curious eyes moved from the gates to the palace's intricate facade. The grand building, which had originally been constructed in 1703 as Buckingham House, had undergone a remarkable transformation over the centuries. King George III had purchased it in 1761 as a private residence for Queen Charlotte, and since then, it had grown into a symbol of the British monarchy. Today, it stood as the official London residence of the king, its 775 rooms filled with history. "Mom," Kaylee whispered, her voice brimming with excitement. "Do you think the king is home right now?" Claire smiled, kneeling slightly to meet her daughter's eyes. "He might be, sweetheart. But you know, Buckingham Palace isn't just his home. It's also where he works. The king holds meetings and events here with leaders from all over the world." Kaylee nodded thoughtfully, her gaze shifting toward the brightly colored gardens visible beyond the gates. Rows of scarlet, yellow, and violet flowers created a breathtaking display. "Look at those flowers, Mom. They're so beautiful. Grandma would love them." Claire followed her daughter's gaze and sighed gently. "She would, wouldn't she? These gardens are very special. They've been here for centuries. Did you know there are over 30 acres of gardens here? King George IV had them redesigned in the 1820s, and some of the plants have been growing here for over 200 years. Kaylee's eyes widened. 200 years? That's older than Grandma. Claire laughed. A lot older, yes. The palace gardeners take care of thousands of flowers. They even grow rare plants here. And there's a big lake at the back of the gardens, with ducks and swans swimming in it. Kaylee leaned against the gate, staring intently at the flowers. "Do you think we could bring one to Grandma? She always says flowers are little pieces of hope." Claire hesitated, hearing the longing in Kaylee's voice. Her own mother, Kaylee's grandmother, had always dreamed of visiting Buckingham Palace. But with her health declining, she could only imagine its beauty through the stories Claire shared. A flower from the palace gardens would mean the world to her. "That's a lovely idea, Kaylee," Claire said gently, "but the flowers here belong to the palace. They're meant for everyone to enjoy, and we can't pick them. Maybe we can find something special for Grandma in the gift shop." Kaylee frowned slightly but didn't argue. Still, the thought of bringing a flower to her grandmother stayed firmly in her mind. Not far from the bustling palace gates, Daniel Carter, a royal guard, strolled along the mall in full uniform. His iconic red tunic was perfectly pressed, and the tall bearskin hat he carried under his arm was a signature of his position. Daniel had just finished his shift at Buckingham Palace and was making his way back toward Wellington Barracks, the nearby headquarters for the guards. Though officially off-duty, Daniel still wore his ceremonial attire. Guards often remained in uniform while moving between their posts and the barracks, as it symbolized their pride and discipline. The bright red tunic, originally introduced in the 17th century to make soldiers easily visible in battle, now served as a powerful emblem of British tradition. The mall, lined with towering trees and Union Jack flags fluttering in the breeze, was a public space often frequented by off-duty guards and tourists alike. It connected Buckingham Palace to Trafalgar Square, making it a popular thoroughfare for those exploring London's landmarks. For Daniel, it was also a chance to unwind after the rigor of duty. Time to reflect and let his mind wander. As he walked, Daniel couldn't help but glance back at the palace gates. Among the throngs of tourists stood a mother and her young daughter, both engrossed in conversation. The little girl's animated gestures and bright curiosity caught his attention, reminding him of his own daughter, Lily. Daniel slowed his pace slightly as he overheard snippets of their conversation. "Mom, what if I ask one of the guards? Maybe they'll let me take just one flower for Grandma," the girl exclaimed, her voice filled with hope. Her mother chuckled, shaking her head gently. "Kaylee, the guards are very busy with their duties, and the flowers are part of the palace. We can't take them, even if we ask nicely." Daniel smiled faintly, his professional demeanor softening for a moment. He knew the palace gardens were strictly off-limits for picking flowers, but he admired the girl's determination. Her words stirred something in him, bringing back memories of Lily's endless questions about his job. He had often promised her stories about his life as a guard but had rarely found the time to share them. Kaylee's enthusiasm reminded Daniel of the joy and innocence he had been missing in his own life. It was a stark contrast to the strict discipline and stoicism his role demanded. Though he was proud of his position, the sacrifices it required, especially time away from Lily, often weighed heavily on him. Unaware of Daniel's quiet observation, Kaylee turned back toward the gates, her small face set with determination. To her, the flowers weren't just beautiful. They were a way to bring a piece of the palace to someone she loved deeply. Her mind was already racing with ideas, though she wasn't quite sure how to make them work. Kaylee stood near the garden's edge, her eyes fixed on a particularly vibrant flower just beyond the restricted area. Its petals shimmered with hues of deep purple and gold, a rare beauty that seemed to encapsulate the essence of the palace itself. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. Flowers are little pieces of hope. Determined to bring a smile to her ailing grandmother's face, Kaylee felt an irresistible pull towards the blossom. Glancing at her mother, Claire, who was engrossed in conversation with a fellow tourist, Kaylee seized the moment. She slipped under the rope barrier, her small feet making barely a sound on the manicured lawn. As she reached out to pluck the flower, a firm yet gentle voice interrupted her. "Excuse me, young lady, what are you doing there?" Startled, Kaylee turned to see a royal guard approaching. It was Daniel Carter, still in his ceremonial uniform, his expression a mix of authority and curiosity. "I'm sorry," Kaylee stammered, her cheeks flushing. "I wanted to pick this flower for my grandma. She's sick and loves flowers, especially from places she's never been." Daniel's initial instinct was to reprimand her. The palace gardens were not only a symbol of royal heritage, but also a protected area with strict rules against trespassing and picking flowers. However, as he looked into Kaylee's earnest eyes, something softened within him. He remembered his own daughter, Lily, and her fascination with flowers. The innocence of Kaylee's gesture resonated deeply with him. Kneeling to meet her at eye level, Daniel spoke gently. "I understand your intentions, but these gardens are special, and we have to take care of them. Picking flowers isn't allowed because it helps keep the garden beautiful for everyone." Kaylee nodded, tears welling up. "I didn't mean to break any rules. I just wanted to make Grandma happy." Touched by her sincerity, Daniel thought for a moment. He knew the rules were strict, but he also recognized the importance of compassion. Making a decision, he carefully picked the flower himself and handed it to Kaylee. "Here," he said softly, "take this to your grandmother. Sometimes, kindness is the most important rule of all." Kaylee's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, sir. This means so much to me and Grandma." As she clutched the flower, Kaylee looked up at Daniel with innocent curiosity. "Do you have someone you love? Have you ever done something special for them?" The question caught Daniel off guard. He felt a lump in his throat as memories of his late wife and estranged daughter flooded back. He realized that, in his dedication to duty, he had neglected the most important people in his life. As he about to speak, Claire realized that her daughter, Kaylee, was no longer by her side. Panic surged through her as she scanned the bustling crowd of tourists, her heart racing. Just as she was about to call out, she spotted Kaylee near the restricted section of the palace gardens, engaged in conversation with a royal guard. Approaching swiftly, Claire's initial alarm was evident. "Kaylee, what are you doing? You know you're not supposed to wander off," she admonished, her voice a mix of relief and concern. Daniel Carter, the royal guard, turned to Claire with a reassuring smile. "Good evening, ma'am." Your daughter was admiring the gardens and had a particular interest in one of the flowers. We've had a little chat about the importance of preserving these historic grounds. Claire's tension eased as she observed the gentle demeanor of the guard and the earnest expression on Kaylee's face. "I'm sorry if she caused any trouble," Claire said, placing a protective hand on Kaylee's shoulder. "No trouble at all," Daniel replied. In fact, Kaylee's curiosity led to a meaningful conversation about the garden's history and the significance of certain flowers. The gardens have a rich history. For instance, back in the early 17th century, King James I attempted to cultivate a silk industry here by planting mulberry trees. Unfortunately, he planted the wrong type, which didn't support silkworms, so the endeavor didn't succeed. Daniel continued. Claire listened intently, appreciating the guard's willingness to share such insights. "It's incredible how much history is right here in these gardens." Kaylee, still holding the flower Daniel had given her, looked up at him with admiration. "Mr. Daniel, do you have a family?" Daniel's expression softened. "Yes, I have a daughter named Lily. She's about your age." Kaylee's eyes widened. "Does she like flowers too?" "She does," Daniel replied, a hint of sadness in his voice. "But I haven't spent as much time with her as I should." Claire sensed the emotional weight behind his words. "Balancing work and family can be challenging," she offered empathetically. Daniel nodded. "Indeed. My duties here are demanding, and it's been difficult to be there for her." Kaylee looked up at him with innocent wisdom. "Maybe you could write her a letter or visit her with a special flower from the garden. It would make her happy." Daniel was taken aback by the simplicity and sincerity of Kaylee's suggestion. "That's a wonderful idea, Kaylee. Thank you." Claire smiled warmly. Sometimes, it's the small gestures that mean the most. As the conversation continued, the trio delved deeper into the importance of family, the challenges of duty, and the power of simple acts of kindness. Daniel shared stories of the palace's history, including how the gardens were redesigned in the 1820s under the direction of King George IV, who appointed William Townsend Aiton, the head gardener at Kew Gardens, to oversee the transformation. Kaylee listened with rapt attention, her earlier mischief forgotten. Claire felt a profound sense of connection, not only to her daughter but also to this compassionate guard who had taken the time to turn a potential reprimand into a teachable moment. As the evening shadows lengthened, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. Kaylee's innocent suggestion had ignited a resolve within him to reconnect with his own daughter. He decided that he would write to Lily that very night and plan a visit, perhaps bringing along a special flower and sharing the stories of the historic gardens he tended. In that brief encounter, amidst the storied grounds of Buckingham Palace, 3 lives intertwined, each leaving an indelible mark on the other. It was a poignant reminder that, even in the midst of duty and history, the bonds of family and the power of compassion remain paramount. As the train gently rocked along the tracks, Kaylee sat beside her mother, Claire, cradling the delicate flower given to her by the kind royal guard, Daniel. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels provided a soothing backdrop as they journeyed back to the countryside to visit Kaylee's grandmother. Upon arriving at the quaint village station, the familiar scent of blooming wildflowers greeted them. The path to grandmother's cottage was lined with hedgerows, their leaves whispering secrets of the past. Kaylee's excitement grew with each step, eager to share her adventure and present the special flower. The cottage, with its thatched roof and ivy-clad walls, stood as a testament to time. Grandmother, a gentle soul with silver hair and twinkling eyes, sat in her favorite armchair by the window, a patchwork quilt draped over her lap. The room was filled with the soft glow of the afternoon sun, casting a warm ambience. "Grandma!" Kaylee exclaimed, rushing forward to embrace her. "Hello, my dear," grandmother replied, her voice tinged with surprise and delight. "What have you got there?" Kaylee carefully presented the flower, its vibrant petals catching the light. "I brought this for you, from the gardens of Buckingham Palace." Grandmother's eyes widened in astonishment. "From the palace?" However did you manage that? Kaylee recounted her day's adventure, the visit to the palace, her fascination with the gardens, and her encounter with Daniel, the compassionate guard who had shared stories of the palace's history and even given her the flower. As Kaylee spoke, grandmother's expression softened, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She gently took the flower from Kaylee's hand, her fingers trembling slightly. This flower, it brings back so many memories, grandmother murmured, her gaze distant. Claire, sensing a deeper story, leaned in. What is it, Mom? Grandmother smiled wistfully. Many years ago, during the war, your grandfather was stationed near Buckingham Palace. He was a young soldier then, full of hope and determination. One day, amidst the chaos of those times, he brought me a flower just like this one. He said it was a symbol of resilience and beauty, even in the darkest of times. Kaylee's eyes widened. Really? Just like this one? Yes, grandmother nodded, her voice thick with emotion. He picked it from the palace gardens, risking a reprimand, just to bring a smile to my face. It was his way of showing that even in the midst of war, there was still beauty and hope. Claire placed a comforting hand on her mother's shoulder. I never knew that story. Grandmother chuckled softly. There are many stories from those days, some too painful to recount, others too precious to share. But this flower, it brings it all back. Kaylee nestled closer to her grandmother. I'm glad I could bring you this flower, Grandma. And I'm grateful to you, my dear, grandmother replied, kissing the top of Kaylee's head. It's a beautiful reminder that kindness and love endure, even through the generations. As the evening shadows lengthened, the three of them sat together, sharing stories of the past and dreams of the future. The flower from Buckingham Palace, now resting in a simple vase on the windowsill, stood as a testament to the enduring power of love, memory, and the unexpected connections that bind us all. In the days following his poignant encounter with young Kaylee, Daniel Carter found himself reflecting deeply on his own life, particularly his strained relationship with his daughter, Lily. The innocence and sincerity of Kaylee's words had ignited a desire within him to mend the distance that had grown between him and Lily over the past months. Determined to make amends, Daniel decided to take a personal day from his duties as a royal guard, a rare occurrence given the regimented nature of his position. He meticulously planned a visit to Lily, who was staying with her maternal grandparents in a quaint village a few hours' journey from London. On the morning of his departure, Daniel visited a local florist. Recalling the flower that had captivated Kaylee in the palace gardens, he selected a small bouquet featuring carnations, which symbolized love and devotion. He hoped that this gesture would convey the depth of his feelings and his commitment to rebuilding their bond. As he traveled by train, memories of earlier times with Lily flooded back, their laughter, shared stories, and the simple joys of being together. He realized how much he had missed and how his absence might have affected her. Upon arriving at the village, Daniel felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. He approached the charming cottage, its garden blooming with vibrant flowers, and took a deep breath before knocking on the door. The door creaked open to reveal Lily, her eyes widening in surprise. "Dad," she whispered, as if unsure whether to believe her eyes. "Hello, Lily," Daniel replied softly, kneeling to her level. "I've missed you so much. I brought you these." He extended the bouquet toward her. Lily hesitated for a moment before breaking into a radiant smile. She threw her arms around him, the bouquet pressed between them. "I missed you too, Dad." Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes as he held his daughter close, the months of separation melting away in that embrace. He silently vowed never to let such distance come between them again. They spent the day together, walking through the village, sharing stories, and rebuilding their connection. Daniel listened intently as Lily spoke about her life, her interests, and her dreams. He realized the importance of being present, of cherishing these moments that could never be recaptured. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Daniel and Lily sat on a bench overlooking a serene pond. Lily held the bouquet, gently touching the petals. "Dad," she began, "these flowers are beautiful." "Thank you. I'm glad you like them," Daniel replied. "They symbolize love and devotion, things I promise to show you every day." Lily leaned her head against his shoulder. "I believe you, Dad." In that tranquil moment, Daniel understood the profound impact of a simple act of kindness. Kaylee's innocent gesture had set off a ripple effect, leading him to this reunion with his daughter. It was a testament to the interconnectedness of human experiences and the enduring power of love and compassion. As they watched the twilight deepen, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to nurture this bond, to be the father Lily deserved, and to carry forward the lesson that a single act of kindness can transform lives in unimaginable ways. Months had passed since that memorable day at Buckingham Palace when young Kaylee's innocent act had set off a chain of events, touching lives in unforeseen ways. The seasons had changed, and with them, the lives of those connected by that singular moment of kindness. On a crisp autumn morning, the air was filled with the vibrant hues of falling leaves, and the city of London buzzed with its usual energy. Kaylee, now a bit taller and ever more curious, held her mother's hand as they approached the familiar silhouette of Buckingham Palace. The palace stood majestic as ever, its historic walls echoing tales of centuries past. "Mom, do you think we'll see the nice guard again?" Kaylee asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Claire smiled down at her daughter. "Perhaps, dear. But remember, the guards have important duties, and we mustn't distract them." As they joined the crowd gathered for the changing of the guard ceremony, the rhythmic cadence of boots on cobblestone announced the arrival of the guards. The spectacle was as grand as Kaylee remembered, a testament to British tradition and discipline. Among the guards, Daniel Carter marched with precision, his face a mask of stoic professionalism. Since their last encounter, Daniel had rekindled his relationship with his daughter, Lily, finding a balance between duty and fatherhood. Yet, the memory of the little girl who had inspired his transformation remained etched in his heart. As the ceremony concluded and the guards took their positions, Daniel's gaze swept over the assembled spectators. His breath caught when he spotted a familiar face. Kaylee, standing beside her mother, her eyes wide with wonder. In that fleeting moment, their eyes met. Recognition flashed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. Breaking protocol ever so slightly, Daniel allowed a subtle nod and a warm, almost imperceptible smile to grace his features. Kaylee beamed, her heart swelling with joy. She squeezed her mother's hand, whispering, "Mom, it's him, the kind guard." Claire followed her daughter's gaze and saw Daniel's brief, gentle smile. She returned the gesture with a nod of gratitude, understanding the depth of the unspoken connection. The moment was brief, unnoticed by others, but profound for those who shared it. It was a testament to the enduring impact of kindness and the invisible threads that weave human experiences together. As Daniel resumed his stoic demeanor, he felt a warmth in his chest, a reminder of the simple yet profound ways lives can intersect. Kaylee and Claire watched as the guards continued their duties, the palace standing as a silent witness to the stories unfolding within and around its walls. In the grand tapestry of life, it is often the smallest gestures that leave the most lasting impressions. A shared smile, a kind word, a simple act of compassion. These are the threads that connect us, creating a fabric of humanity that withstands the test of time. And so, as the sun cast its golden glow over Buckingham Palace, three individuals, bound by a moment of kindness, carried forward the lessons learned from their encounter, forever changed by the power of human connection. In the quiet embrace of her grandmother's cozy cottage, nestled amidst the rolling hills of the English countryside, young Kaylee sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun dipped below the verdant landscape. The room was bathed in the soft, golden glow of twilight, casting gentle shadows that danced upon the walls adorned with family photographs and cherished mementos. On her lap lay an old, leather-bound book, its pages yellowed with age and filled with pressed flowers, each holding a story of its own. Among them was the delicate bloom she had once picked from the gardens of Buckingham Palace, a token of kindness from a royal guard named Daniel. The flower, now dried and fragile, retained its beauty, serving as a tangible reminder of a day that had forever changed her perspective on the world. As she traced the outline of the petals with her fingertip, Kaylee's thoughts wandered back to that fateful day, The day she learned that even the smallest acts of kindness could ripple outward, touching lives in ways she had never imagined. Her grandmother, seated across the room in her favorite armchair, looked up from her knitting, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "What are you thinking about, dear?" she inquired, her voice gentle and warm. Kaylee smiled softly, lifting her gaze to meet her grandmother's. "I was just remembering the day at the palace gardens," she replied. "It's amazing how a simple act can change so much." Her grandmother nodded, setting aside her knitting needles. "Indeed, Kaylee. Kindness has a way of weaving threads between hearts, creating a tapestry of connections that can transform lives." Kaylee's mind drifted to Daniel, the guard who had shown her compassion and understanding. She wondered how he was faring, and if he had managed to mend his relationship with his daughter, Lily. The thought that her actions might have played a part in their reconciliation filled her with a sense of fulfillment. "Grandma," Kaylee began, her voice tinged with contemplation, "do you think that small acts of kindness really make a big difference?" Her grandmother leaned forward, her expression earnest. "Absolutely, my dear. Sometimes, it's the smallest gestures that leave the most profound impacts. A kind word, a helping hand, a simple smile. They can all brighten someone's day and even change the course of their life." Kaylee pondered this, recalling stories she had heard, like the one about a young girl who raised over $27,000 for her friend in need by auctioning a lamb at a 4-H competition. That single act of generosity had rallied an entire community, providing hope and support in a time of despair. "I read about a girl who helped her friend by auctioning a lamb," Kaylee mused aloud. "It started as a small gesture, but it ended up helping so many people." Her grandmother smiled, her eyes reflecting pride. "That's a perfect example, Kaylee. Kindness is like a pebble dropped into a pond. The ripples spread far and wide, reaching shores we may never see." Feeling inspired, Kaylee closed the book gently, careful not to damage the precious flower within. "I want to keep spreading kindness, Grandma. Even if it's something small, I want to make a difference." Her grandmother reached out, placing a wrinkled hand over Kaylee's. "And you will, my dear. By carrying kindness in your heart and sharing it with others, you're planting seeds that will grow into beautiful moments for many." As the evening deepened and stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Kaylee felt a renewed sense of purpose. She understood now that persistence, empathy, and a willingness to help others were not just virtues but powerful tools that could shape the world around her. In the days that followed, Kaylee sought out opportunities to extend kindness, helping a neighbor with their groceries, comforting a classmate who was feeling down, or simply offering a genuine compliment to brighten someone's day. Each act, no matter how small, was a tribute to the lesson she had learned and a step toward creating a more compassionate world. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit eager to make a difference, Kaylee embraced the journey ahead, knowing that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can plant seeds that grow into life-changing moments. As she drifted off to sleep that night, the pressed flower resting on her bedside table, Kaylee carried with her the wisdom of her experiences and the comforting knowledge that her actions, however small, held the power to touch lives and inspire change. And in the quiet stillness of her room, under the watchful gaze of the moon, a new chapter of kindness began, one that would continue to unfold in the hearts and lives of those she encountered along the way.